Good afternoon. Hope you're all well. Hey Diana. Yeah, I realized I didn't see you on the stream yesterday. I was wondering, hope you're okay. Good morning, Christina. How are you doing? Hey Basanta. Good morning. I just realized I was trying to sort out something on YouTube, but it seems to be working fine. If you guys can hear me okay, see me all right, put it into the chat, let me know. Good morning, Dark Knight. How are you doing? Hey, Stefan. Hey, Lindy. Hope you're well. It is storming right outside, so you might hear the thunder rumbling around. Okay, we'll give it a quick minute before we get started. Have been scalping the yen to the upside, and what's your bias on yen? Do you think it bounce back? Yeah, so have been scalping the yen to the upside. Once it got to that 158 level, waiting to see maybe at the end of this stream whether it's going to close up or down. I'm not too tempted to sell it back down if it does close down. I don't think it's ready yet. Yeah, so ideally looking for it to close up. There was a news from the press conference. I'll share that with you shortly. All right, so if you are new to the session, do drop a message and say hi. Let me know where you're joining us from. And for all the regulars, a big welcome back. Thank you again for joining me on this daily market analysis. Just a quick reminder again to everyone, today is Friday the 14th. It is the last live stream for the week and also for next week, because I'm not going to be around next week. So you got to trade, you got to read the news, you got to analyze it yourself. You can share it, you share your points of view in the Discord channel if you want to, and I can, I think, hopefully reply to you. I think I should get access to Discord to reply to you on Discord. Okay, so you can do it in reverse. Share your views, share your ideas into Discord, and then I will feed back to you on that instead of doing a live stream. So no live stream next week, but the week after that, I'll be back. Okay, so a quick disclaimer. Any information contained on this webinar should not be construed as advice and is presented as educational material only. The contents of this webinar are not intended to be a recommendation to trade a financial product. So please remember that your objectives, financial situation, and needs has not been considered, and you should consider its appropriateness to your circumstances. Okay, take that away. Now, yes, I will kind of miss doing the live stream. I'm not going to be entering any trades the next week. In fact, I don't think I'll be entering many trades today as well. After, I mean, just looking at the yen after that, but you know, not looking at any trades into next week. So anything I do will be short term, right? Super short term. Hey, June Marinas, how are you doing? Hey, Nav. Hey, Ahmed. Good to see you again. Hope you're all doing well. Okay, so what we just had, well, what we had from yesterday, when it loads, what we had from yesterday was the core PPI and PPI for the US. This was at 8:30 p.m. GMT plus 8, where we saw, surprisingly, I was very surprised with that number. PPI month to month, it was a 0.5, expected a 0.1. It got released at a minus 0.2, right? So producer price index, inflation measure for producers, cost of production, went down quite significantly month to month from a 0.5 to a minus 0.2, while core PPI, you see here core PPI, it excludes food and energy, went from a 0.5 expected 0.3, came out at a 0 flat. Okay, so that news 8:30 saw the dollar index, let's zoom in a bit, at that point there, right? It sat there, so we were talking about this, it sat there, pushed up to that 61.8, 104, just below 105. On release of the news, of the PPI news, we saw the dollar index push down within the hour to that 38.2 level, 104.63, before pushing back up again, breaking that 61.8 and gradually now, especially now, climbing up towards that resistance level we've highlighted. Right, so it kind of moved as we had expected, where it's retraced, stays above 104.60, did that, and then if price breaks above 105, which was right here, price breaking above 105, could trade up to that 105.45 level, which it's just getting to right now, or got to and pushing through right now. Okay, so moved as planned, moved ideally as we could have wished for. And then with that, what we have to, oh, just saw that. Okay, what we had for this morning, I came in, I was waiting and waiting on the yen. I'll tell you that this is the yen. I was sitting there, price was right there. Okay, so I'll keep that there, but price was right there. I was actually looking, I had my order above 105, no, price, okay, hang on, where was price? It was right there, 10 a.m. It was right there. I had a buy order of 105.50, oh, 157.50 up towards that point there. So a good, no, I had it at 50 pips to the upside. I had a very tight stop at 10, right? And then I did another order here down below this whole collection area where I went 156.75. There below that point, again a very tight stop, 10, and then I was looking for that move down to that point, right? Anticipation was that this order to the downside was thinking that, hey, maybe if the BOJ came out and said something like, we will reduce the JGBs. Hey Jimmy, how are you doing? We'll reduce the JGBs, the bond purchases, expecting some downside push or some strength on the yen to the downside, on the US yen to the downside. And then if they do nothing at all, then we expect that push up. Okay, but what happened was, as before the news, it started pushing down, right? So when it started pushing down, I saw that push and then it bounced back up again, and I just thought, no, it's fluctuating a bit too much. So I took that away. Just left that one running, and I moved that a bit nearer. I had only up to 157.90, right? So 40 pip move to the upside, and then it popped up. I'll show it to you on the 1 minute time frame. This was what happened during the news. All right, and then it popped up above 157.50 and just went up towards that 158 level, got out within that move, and then it just sat there. All right, it sat there, pushed up a little bit more, came back down. What we've just seen before this session, 32 minutes ago, during the press conference from the BOJ, was that, so they released, what happened was they released at 11:23 a.m. The monetary policy statement said that there was no, here we go, okay. Right, monetary policy statement said that there was no changes to JGBs, right, regarding the purchase of government bonds, and will conduct the purchase in accordance with the decision made in March. And then no change in the interest rate as well. Then, so that was the headliner there. And then they said they were going to hold a bond market group meetings. And if you read that, the date was to be announced. It was to talk about participants or person in charge. Topic will be on the opinion on the future conduct of bank JGB purchases. Then what happened was, it's been a busy morning, right? What happened was at 2:30, just before our session here, during the press conference, the headliner came out that the BOJ Governor Ueda said, we have decided during the press conference, said, we have decided to reduce the JGB purchases to ensure long-term yields are formed more freely in the markets. And as a result of that, I'll show it in an hourly time frame, easier to see. We saw, put that in and in, right? We saw the yen, it was sitting around that 158.15 level, 158.20 level. Right on release of that one headliner, we saw the yen go down to 157.60, right, 63, and then immediately come right back up. And so far, it's still sitting along that 158 level. So I know a lot. I mean, one of you guys were asking on the Discord channel. Diana has been asking whether I'm still bullish on the yen and what's the bias. It's sitting along this 158 level. I'm still looking for it to close above that 158. It's pushing up right now, but I want it to close above 158 before we could see further upside. But if you look at it in the scheme of things, in this area between 158 and 159 or 160 up top, there is where the last time, right at that point here, on the 29th of April and on the 2nd of May, is when we saw the BOJ intervene. I think it's pretty much confirmed now. They came out with how much they spent to intervene in the markets. They intervened at 159 almost 159.40 to push it down from 159.40 down to 155.20 within the hour. And then after that, again, a couple of days later, from 157.45 down to 152 or 153, right? So this is the area between this point at 159.40 and 158. That point there is where we're likely is coming into that territory where the BOJ is likely that we could see some activity. I don't like to say the word, but manipulation, intervention from the BOJ. So going to be very cautious in the middle between 158 and 159. Tradable, but I think that is going to be, you want to close out quickly and get off positions quickly, just in case. If you're buying it up, just in case, right? So that's what I'm thinking. If I'm buying it up for today, I will be looking at short-term trades, very short-term, almost scalping trades. I've been scalping it up as well before. Oops, move that back. I am also thinking whether to just have because I'm not going to be looking at the markets that much next week, whether to just have a sell order just below 158 in case we see, so have a sell order just below that point, right? In case we see it go back up and then an intervention straight back down. I'm thinking about that. I don't think it's ready for that position or to adopt that position yet. Okay, so does that answer your questions about the yen for everyone? Basically, again, the BOJ released its policy rate kept at 0.1%. Monetary policy statement said that kept rates on hold, no changes or scale of JGB's purchases to follow from March. And then during the press conference, they've decided to reduce the JGB purchases. And also what we just had 19 and 10 minutes ago was that it's possible to raise the rate in July depending on data, and a rate hike is justified if upside risk intensifies, right? So far, the last time they hiked rates was back in March. When March? Let me see. The last time the hike rates was March 19th. All right. Where am I? Okay. The last time they did that was in March 19, which was right here. And look what happened. Although they hiked rates, we still saw the yen continue to weaken, to push up, because it was not considered as, or the market didn't consider that the BOJ was fully committed to that rate hike. Although they have hiked rates, they didn't give a plan for future rate hikes. They didn't. They only hiked rates. They didn't do any other policy adjustments. That's why we saw the yen continue to weaken. If they do the same thing again in July, right? We're talking way ahead now. But if they do the same thing in July, we might still see the yen continue to weaken, but it's going to be a little bit different because this will be the second rate hike in the whole timeline. Okay, so that's what we'll be watching out for later into the next decision, which is, let me see, when was it again? I forgot. Which is on the 30th of July, so a good 1.5 months away. All right, so hope that answers all your questions about the yen, the BOJ's decision today. Okay, just checking the chats. Okay, hey Lingopedia, how are you doing? We can do Swiss yen. We'll look at that shortly as well. All right, so that's what's happened this morning, right? This morning for me. And then through today, we have a whole bunch of news. Not huge news. I'm not too bothered about these. Yeah, not too bothered about this. And then we have preliminary University of Michigan consumer sentiment looking like it's going to push up slightly from 69.1. It was revised from 67, so pushed up to 69, expected 72. This used to have very good impact on the dollar, but not so much now. So I used to pay a lot of attention to the consumer sentiment, but not so much now. If it gets to 70 and above, it should bring about a little bit more bullishness for the dollar index, all right, or for the US dollar. And since we are on the last day of the week, we'll look into next week. Nothing much on Monday, but on Tuesday, we have the RBA with their interest rate decision, most likely going to hold at 4.35%. So we watch out for that. Read the rate statement. I don't think this will be a big price mover. I expect the RBA to keep rates on hold and also to be relatively neutral in their rate statement. What I mean by neutral is they're not going to be talking about rate hikes. I don't think they'll be talking about rate hikes. And also, I don't think they give any time, or they're not even close to giving any timeline on the rate cut scenario, right? So relatively neutral, don't expect much from that at this point. Then we have retail sales for the US. I think it's going to be relatively flat, but CPI for the UK on Wednesday, followed with, there's a bank holiday here. What's that bank holiday? Juneteenth. Okay, that's fine. CPI for the UK on Wednesday, that will be quite important because it's going to feed into the BOE's interest rate decision on Thursday, the 20th. It is they are currently at 5.25%. Could they be talking about a rate cut scenario? We saw the Euro, we saw the ECB do it already, we saw the BOC do it already. Will the BOE do it this time round? I think it might be a little bit early, but could be a surprise there. So we watch out for that, okay? And then unemployment claims, not too bothered. Retail sales, oh, that one as well, we have the SNB, the Swiss National Bank, with their rate decisions. As usual, the Swiss National Bank, they're very likely, they have a higher probability to surprise the markets, right? So before that, they were at 1.75. They were expected to hold at 1.75, and they dropped it to 1.5%. This was in March. So we'll look out for that as well. Then a whole bunch of PMI numbers to be released on Friday. And then after that, the next Monday, I'll be back on the live streams with you guys again. Okay, so that's the things to watch out for next week. I'm not too concerned about PMI at this point, but BOE interest rate decision, SNB interest rate decision on Thursday, and then CPI on Wednesday, and the RBA on Tuesday. Those 3 days will be high volatility, not so much on the RBA, more on the retail sales, but those 3 days, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, is likely to be high volatility, high liquidity. So watch out, trade well, trade safe. Okay. Now, with all that said, looking at the dollar index, we're done with this. Even if I took that up, no point. Take that away. That one's done. Take that away. Take all these. I don't need that. Clean up the charts a little bit. It's at a resistance level. I just want to spot that point there. Now that it's coming to that resistance, which is also that 61.8 level, something to watch out for. We have, I would say that it's going to be a little bit, I'll move this up and take that as an area, as a resistance area. Okay. There are two thoughts here. Today being the 14th of June. Two thoughts here is that we started the week right there. Right? We started the week right there. It pushed up, and then we saw that the CPI for the US push it right back down, and then the FOMC pushed it up, and then we see it continuing to the upside. Now, looking at this, there is likely to be a reaction along this resistance level between 105.60 and 105.70, formed by that 61.8 and that previous swing high. Okay, I'm thinking that because it is end of the week, we should see a little bit of a retrace. We should see a little bit of a retrace back down. So looking at this, testing, retracing before ideally continuing to the upside with the next resistance at 106.40. So today, being that, we're looking for the dollar index to test resistance area of 105.60 and 105.70. If could retrace briefly due to end of week. But we're looking generally, I mean, if it retraces, don't do anything. But generally, I'm looking for it to break resistance, could trade up to 106.40. Right? Might not be this move, this big move, relatively big move, might not be today, but it's generally that's the direction we're looking for. Right? It could apply through to next week as well. Now, hey Noachoku, how are you doing? Now with that, okay, looking at the Kiwi dollar first, that's doing well. If you got onto that trade, let me know. Right, we were talking about this yesterday to sell down. So look for it to retrace and then reject to sell down at 6150. Diner missed the trade by a few pips. Order was at 6.2. Just up there, just missed it. Yeah, literally 5 pips away. But price tagged into fair value and went all the way down. Yeah, you just missed it. It went to 6198. So just a couple of pips away, and it's pushed down. Now we had, from yesterday, we had 6150 to the downside. If the dollar does continue to push up, then we're expecting this to trade to the downside. If you got into that, let me know. Diner missed it by a couple of pips. What we're looking at now, or what I'm looking at now, is that it breaks 61, is breaking 61.8, but it's sitting there a little bit. All right, I would consider that whole area. So it hasn't, to me, it hasn't broken this area yet. I'm looking at this testing and retracing. It's retracing ever so slightly right now. So looking at it sitting there, close below this point, 6130, 20 is very generous here. Take profit, you have 30 down here, or you could go down to 50 to the support level, to this support level here. Okay, drag this right across and you'll see that. So that makes sense. Yes, not quite to break. That's a good point to break down. Okay, I'm happy with that. So 6130, I would say 20 to 50 with a bit of a hesitation at 61. Okay, so 6130, 20 to 50, but there's a hesitation at 0.61. Yes. Okay, then onto the Aussie. That again is doing well. It's pushing down. If you are in that, I would say that it's time you could move your stop loss to break even and let that run to the downside towards that swing low that we've seen here at the start of the week, right at the start of the week. If you haven't, or if you didn't get into this trade, I would think that it's too late at this point. You would have got into, I think the Kiwi would be a better one to get into. If you miss those two moves, I think that one is a bit on the way, and you see that Bollinger is right there. So I wouldn't try and rush in to catch this move, right? If you did that, that's only a 30 pip take profit. Even if you had a 20 pip, it wouldn't really work very well. Possible, but I wouldn't do that. What I would instead, and you see that it's done and broken that level as well, right? So you could do it. I think it's a little bit high risk. Might bounce back up a little bit because we're thinking that the dollar could retrace slightly. So I'm looking at this and I'm thinking maybe a longer term move, right? So 38.2 was where it bounced off. Maybe wait and see. That one's up there, that's fine. Wait and see what happens along that level at 6580, right? Look for reaction at 6580. Anticipation would be a break to the downside, breaking to the downside, that would make sense. Okay, again, I don't think this will be in a rush kind of trade. This could take a little bit more time to play out. 6565, stop loss 20, take profit a good 70 pips to the downside. No, I think a bit wider here, 25, right? Why a little bit wider? I'm just thinking that it could, if it slowly comes to the downside, it could test, bounce back up, and then hit lower again. Also news for the, also news for the Aussie next week with the RBA decision. Not talking about a rate cut, would bring it up a little bit. So I'm looking at a bit of a fluctuation here, but I think we could see that. Or look for it to bounce, but I think that it's not going to have enough strength to bounce back up, given that the dollar is anticipated to strengthen, to continue with its strength. So 65, 65, 25 to 70. All right, we look to sell this down at 0.6565, stop loss 25, take profit 70 to the downside. There we go. There's a bit of waiting to do, that's fine. Then onto the yen, it is a big mess. We were looking at that straddle. What we're talking about from this yesterday was that last night we were expecting it to push up towards that 158 level, and then today on release of the news we were expecting to break up or down that straddle at 158. I don't think, or rather that straddle wouldn't work right now because we're not expecting another news to spike it up or down. So I wouldn't do a straddle there. The general expectation is further upside, right? Like I was just saying so many times since then already. Expectation is further upside because of yen. No big change on yen. They've just talked about some increases. Or amending the JGB purchases. But if dollar does strengthen, it's going to push the US yen further to the upside. I would think that I don't like it. I don't like it. I think that yes, you could buy it up from here. I don't need that line anymore, actually. Take that away. And you could buy it up from this point up, but you're heading into that intervention territory. If you're accepting the risk, 158.40, 40 pip stop loss, 100 pip take profit to the upside, but I would say you can manage that and look to close out quickly. All right, that's a bit, I feel it's a little bit dangerous just because we don't know what's going to happen or what the BOJ could do in this range. But if you're looking, the only thing I'm looking to do is to buy it up. I wouldn't be looking at this point to sell it down unless you do what I was talking about, a small trade, a small order to sell down, but I think not yet. I think not yet. Okay, so 158.40, 40 to 100. The lack of major decision or moves from the BOJ makes me a little bit uncomfortable with the US yen. Buy at 158.40, stop loss, I would even say 50, take profit 100. Okay, why 50 is because I want it below that 158 level, just slightly below. Let that round number be a bit of a support, protection as well. Okay, good stuff. Then onto the pound dollar. We were looking for it to push up and trade down. Did not push up. Take that away. Did break the 61.8 to push down. You could have been on that trade. Anyone got into that? I was so focused on the yen, I didn't get into any other trades. If you got into that, let me know. Now that that's done, we can take all that away. Nothing on the pound at this point. Yes, of course I can look at Aussie yen, not a problem. Nothing on the pound at this point, but you want to see and watch for a reaction at this support level, 1.2690. Right, 1.2690. You want to watch for that area. You know, watch that area as a support. Okay, why that is because this could push down, but you've seen that it's bounced off this point once, May 24th, 30th, again 3rd of June, again 10th of June. It comes down to this point, you're going to see a reaction here. I feel that although we have the BOE into next week, but that's on Thursday, there is still a bit of time there. I don't think it's going to, I don't think they're going to cut rates, right? I don't think they're going to cut rates this time round, which could see it break, but you want to see a reaction at 1.2690 first. Okay, so nothing on the pound yet, but we want to see a look for reaction at 1.2690. Wait for reaction at 1.2690. If it breaks to the downside, good. If not, bounce. You have that set up there. Okay, be looking at something like that. Back up. Or you'll be looking at if it breaks to the downside. I'm almost planning trades for you guys into next week. Right, 25 down to, well, big downside to that way, but we want to see what happens here. Again, I don't think it'll be a today kind of trade. We'll see it come down to that point. Okay, yes, we can do Euro Pound as well. Okay, this one I like, so that did not trigger, take that away. This is something that I was watching in addition to the yen, is how it has broken, or just then when I was looking at it, it was just about trying to break that 61.8 from a long-term move, to the upside. 61.8 was held on the 9th of May, was held on the 11th of June. Looks like it's breaking at this point now. 1.0712. Bollinger looks reasonable. It's still within the Bollinger. What I would say is that this could be a now kind of trade, right? If it closes this way, 1.0705, stop loss 30 at the most. You could do even 25, but I think 30 would be reasonable. Take profit, you'll go down to 95. Big downside, and then we will look at a possible hesitation just at about 1.0670, right? Which would be your 1:1, and then if it breaks past that, you have 1:3 to the downside. So 1.0705, 30 to 95 to the downside. I like that one because it's breaking that 61 from the long term. 1.0705, did I get right? Yes. 30 to 90, 90 I think. All right. 30 to 90 with a hesitation at 1.0607. If I got that right, 1.0670, not 07. 1.0670. Okay. Super. Okay, now looking, since we've no, we won't do that. Veg over. Let me do that. Okay. All right. I don't know what was that about. So, okay. Now we've looked at the pound dollar pushing down. It is still pushing down to the downside. Euro pushing to the downside. Looking at the euro pound. If the euro, JA was asking about the euro pound, some kind of a gap. I think it will feel soon. If you're talking about that gap, I don't see that feeling anytime soon. Right, euro pound has been breaking big to the downside. I don't, if you're talking about that one, I don't see any reason for it to come back up because the euro is dropping. So if the euro does continue to drop, we're going to see further downside on the euro pound. All right, unless the euro sits there and the pound drops massively, then we're going to see it spike back up. But I think I haven't looked at this for a long time, and it's quite interesting that it's broken that range. This is H4, it's broken that range, and it's likely to push lower a bit more. 38.2 is there, but I don't see a big reason for it to come back up. I would think that we're going to see a little bit more downside on the euro pound. Okay. Then we looked at the Aussie pushing to the downside. The yen still sitting there at 158. Looking at the Aussie yen, I like that we were looking at this to test and reject. It did not continue up. Take that away. Test and reject. It's getting there. It's trying to break this point. Catch that level there. I would say that if it breaks the trend line and the 23.6 level, you could see that move like that, right? Trend line being that, that's okay, but that's broken, so I like to keep to that one. So sit there, break. Now that it's tested and rejected, looks like it's rejecting. If the Aussie dollar does continue to push down, then Aussie yen will be possibly looking at below 104. Not straight away, but when it breaks that trend line, 104.30. About you could do, no, you wouldn't do that. A 25 would be reasonable to a 60 pip to the downside towards that 61.8 level. Okay, does that align with your view there? We'll do CAD yen later on. If it creates fair value on H4 and holds that level, I'll buy it up. H4 hold. Maybe. I think it could push up. I think it's going to sit there for a while. on the US yen. Yeah, I do think it could see a bit of an upside, but maybe look for it to test a little bit lower and push up. But that 158 level is holding a little bit too stubbornly at this point. 157.66, which is, yeah, about there. About that 23, yeah. I think that if it comes around, if it stays above that area, you could look to buy it up, but the way it's pushing looks like the momentum could drag it a little bit lower, thinking that maybe that 158 level is going to hold quite strong. Okay, we've done that one, we've done that, that's pushing down, could close out, could be an entry there. US Swiss franc, not going to do that. Right, we don't need that and that. Take all that away. Interestingly is that it is sitting right there, although the dollar is pushing to the upside. Typically, from what we've previously seen, is that whenever the dollar pushes up, we'll see the US Swiss franc push up. At this point, it's odd that the US Swiss franc is sitting in that position. I feel that I wouldn't do anything. It's right in the middle of that support and resistance level. So it's, you're going to see a reaction along that support or that resistance. So nothing yet at this point. Stay out. I'll stay out the US Swiss franc. That's what we did for the CAD yesterday. No setup for now. Right, and actually I'm getting a bit distracted with the US Swiss franc. You see that. I'll draw it up and I'll put it in the Discord. It's just something I see funny there. Okay, then onto the US CAD. Don't need that and those. Okay, that trend line is going to hold. All right, we maintain that trend line to the upside. Dollar strengthening, you want this to push up. You want it to break that resistance level. Maybe what we could be looking for, again, it's a bit of a different view, is if that resistance hold, if we don't see massive dollar strength, and instead we see the dollar weaken back, then you could be looking at a move like that to test and come back down. So I'll be looking at a 30 pip stop. I'll be looking at a 85 pip take to the downside towards that swing level. So 1.3770, 30 to 85. We're looking to sell at 1.3770, stop loss 30, take profit 85. $85 to the downside. Euro made some move. Now it's bouncing back, it's pushed down and bouncing back a little bit. Still has time to, giving us a bit more time, 10 minutes to bounce around there, and then you can look to sell it down. I think that's going to be an interesting, could be a very good setup. All right. So we looked at the CAD possibly pushing up towards that resistance, a bit of weakness there. The yen is gaining a little bit of strength, but holding around that level. Then onto the CAD yen, testing that resistance. It's not really a good resistance area, is it? That's a good resistance there. That's a swing level there, right? If the CAD pushes back up and then if the CAD pushes up, US CAD pushes up, you can see some weakness there. It's pushing back down. That makes sense. I feel that we might have missed the move. So Ahmed was asking about this. I feel that that was a good point a couple of hours ago to get in on rejection of that point. Now that we've not got in there, what we'll be looking at is, I wouldn't want to get in there. I just feel that it's super choppy in this area. This whole area here is just super choppy. You could sell it down, but I feel that it might not be worth the risk. That's 80, but in the middle here, it could just bounce back up and hit your stop. So unless you're going to take a 60 pip stop loss and a take profit of 80, or I don't see that doing that as well. So I'll be looking at that kind of move, which I don't think it's worth doing. It might move, it might get there, but I don't think it's worth the risk. Okay. Then back to the euro. I think I covered everyone's questions, right? Oh, Aussie, we did Aussie yen as well, did we? Yeah, we did Aussie yen, we did euro pound, we did CAD yen. I haven't got Swiss yen. I know a Swiss yen as well. The euro, no worries, Ahmed. The euro, if it retraced back up to that support now turned resistance, then yes, would be a good, better setup where you could be looking at 1.0715. I think it's only a bit of a difference. 25 to 50 and all the way back down again. So it's only a 10 pip difference. So it could from here break to the downside or bounce back, reject, and break back down again. Okay, obviously those who are selling wouldn't want it to bounce back up. Those who have entered there, so it might hit a stop, but I'm looking at that. I think the momentum with everything pointing down, it looks like we could see that push down. During the session I shared with you all during the Zoom session I shared with you all about the MACD that I've made. It's crossing to the downside as well, so the crossover is also pushing that down. All right, so we've got that. Yeah, no worries. US Swiss franc is being a bit blurred at this point. Then Swiss yen is pushing up. Why do I have no lines? Because it's in a massive high. Pulling back down because of the US yen, right? So US yen is getting interesting when it comes to this point here, so watch out for that. Swiss yen, you might be looking at it to test this point. I haven't looked at this for we haven't looked at this for a very long time. It was back in middle May that we looked at it as it pushed up. Now, I would say that a lot of indecision. This is a good support level now. If it stays above this point, I'll put a little bit that point. Stays above 175.70. So it's tracing back now. If it stays above this point, you could see it bounce back up. But main thing is you must remember that the US Swiss franc is still sitting there, not doing too much. Now the move that you're seeing on the Swiss yen is driven by what's happening on the yen. And then also we have the Swiss National Bank, the SNB, with their rates decision next week as well. Okay, so that's retracing. We're looking for that to possibly retrace and bounce back up. So hence we're looking at the Swiss yen to retrace and bounce back up as well. All right, okay. So we've covered a lot today. Then now looking at gold as the dollar. Very interestingly, dollar gaining that strength, pushing up. You're seeing gold also push up. We talked about this yesterday to break 2307 to trade down to 2280. It broke. It broke 2307. Right, or bounced off 2307 to push back up and then back down. Now it's sitting at this point. That's done. That's gonna hold. We keep that there. We don't need a trend line like that. I think that what's going to be interesting on gold is you see how gold consolidates quite widely for a while. And again, in that area here, right, it's quite a wide consolidation. That seems to be what's happening right now, right? Quite a wide, if I move this, just drag it right across, you see that it's a similar area that it's trading within, and it's roughly drawn. So I think that it's going to stay between that 2340 level and 2290 level. Not too exciting on gold at this point, right? Likely to range between 2340 and 2290. All right, there we have it. For today, covered a lot of pairs after the BOJ, talked about the BOJ as well. Now, with all that said, please remember, if you haven't already, do click that like and subscribe button, and you can help me out massively by clicking like and subscribe. Please trade well, trade safe. There are no live stream next week, but if you are on my Discord channel, then you can ask a question. I try and get back to you as soon as possible. Okay, take care now. I'll see you guys soon. Bye-bye.